Hello, and welcome to another video from 3.5 Archive. Today, we're going to be doing our 81st D&D 3.5 Prestige class review, and we're going to be looking at the Black Flame Zealot Prestige class from the Complete Divine Sourcebook. 81 seemed like a fitting number for this Prestige class review, seeing as 81 is the square of 9, and 9 has a lot of dark and sort of occult undertones to it, often used with the 9 lives of a cat, for example, or the 9 riders of the Nazgul in the Lord of the Rings. So it only seems fitting that something dark and occult be the prestige class for today's review, and what could be more dark than the Black Flame Zealot. Black Flame Zealots are part of a mysterious society of assassins, the Order of the Black Flame, and they used their mystical zeal alongside stealth and divine magic in order to take out foes of their god. What that god is can depend on your setting. Suggested here in the section are Pyremius, which is referenced with page XX, so it seems like someone forgot to put in the page number there. Also Kossuth from the Forgotten Realms, but it can be any non-good patron deity with the fire domain, or as well as the destruction or death domains. And you're going to be part of a secret society, so don't forget that when you're coming up with this character. You should probably have some role play with being inducted into that as you reach your time of joining this prestige class. More likely, this prestige class is going to be used for enemy NPCs, so you won't have to worry about that, of course, if you're the dungeon master. But you might have a player character, especially in a evil campaign or a campaign of just anti-heroes. You don't have to necessarily be evil to be in this prestige class. That can get into this prestige class and take advantage of some of its abilities. So let's see what you need to become a Black Flame Zealot. Well, you're going to need to be of non-good alignment. Not evil, just non-good. So that's something to keep in mind because this prestige class actually gives you a death attack. So that's one of the ways to get it that doesn't require you to be actually evil. You could play a true neutral or chaotic neutral character, and you would be able to gain access to death attack, which isn't the greatest ability in the world, but it's still a way to get it without being evil for an assassin or necessarily lawful good like you would need to be for the Slayer of Domiel prestige class. But we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here. So you need to be of non-good alignment. You need 8 ranks in Hide, 8 ranks in Move Silently, and 8 ranks in Knowledge Religion. You're going to need to have exotic weapon proficiency with the Kukuri and Iron Will. You're also going to need to be able to cast 2nd level divine spells and have sneak attack damage of 1d6. So you're going to need at least 1 level in Spell Thief or Rogue. You're going to need to have at least 3 levels in Cleric or a similar base class that does divine spells. And you're going to need 2 different feats. You're going to need exotic weapon proficiency with the Kukuri and Iron Will. Neither of which are particularly commonly taken by clerics. Unless you can find some way to get yourself these feats from a domain, which there's no domain I know of that grants either one of them, then you're going to be running a pretty narrow path here. You're going to probably want to take 2 levels in Rogue, and then you're going to want to spend a lot of your skill points. You're probably going to want to play a human. You're going to have to spend almost all of your remaining skill points maxing out Hide and Knowledge Religion and Move Silently. At least 2 of your 3 feats, if you do play a human, are going to go toward exotic weapon proficiency with the Kukuri and Iron Will. And then you're just going to have to be multi-class Cleric Rogue. So the example character given here is a Rogue 2 Cleric 3 who then has 7 levels in Black Flame Zealot. So we're going to rate the requirements for this prestige class very restrictive. Doesn't seem like a whole lot just looking at it, but because of the classes that it comes from, neither of them get any bonus feats, and in fact you're going to have to play a human just to keep up with the skill ranks or have good intelligence, which if you're going to be playing a rogue cleric is already going to be a bit too much to ask. So while it's difficult to become a Black Flame Zealot, let's see how much it gives you in return. You're going to get a d6 hit die, which is going to match what you're getting from your rogue levels. You're going to get 4 plus intelligence modifier skill points per level. So again, a bit of a compromise between your cleric and rogue levels. and you're going to get a 3/4 base attack and a good reflex and will save. So you're not going to get the good fortitude save of the cleric. It makes sense that you're not going to get a good save in all three. As is, this progression actually is very similar to that of a bard. And it's not terrible, but as we look through the features of this prestige class, one of the first things we're going to notice is that your spellcasting only advances every other level. And of course, as with so many prestige classes, this causes real trouble. I mean, right away, you're going to be getting to level 10 in the prestige class as a 15th level character who only casts spells as an 8th level cleric. And that would be okay if you were getting, full-on rogue advancement as well, but you're not, as we're going to see. So let's look at what you get for class features. At level 1, you're going to get 2 of them. You're going to get Death Attack and Zealous Heart. Death Attack is going to work like the Assassin ability on page 180 of the Dungeon Master's Guide. It's interesting that it says this because it seems like it still uses intelligence. So even though you're playing a rogue cleric who's going to need dexterity and wisdom, it looks like you're also going to need intelligence for your death attack. Saying that you would be able to, use wisdom instead would have made this feature a lot more appealing, but since you're going to need to invest in intelligence anyway, it's going to further hurt the DC of your death attack, and also you don't get the option to paralyze your target. This is very strange because seeing as this is the option available to a non-evil prestige class, just non-good, not necessarily evil, it's a little bit strange you would lose the only non-lethal option related to your death attack as a sort of drawback here. It does say if you have levels in Assassin, you can add those levels together to determine the save DC of your death attack. But that doesn't really seem to do very much. You're not going to be taking levels in Assassin, most likely. So that's a pretty mediocre version of death attack, mostly due to the forced use of intelligence, but also due to the fact that you can't paralyze as well. I mean, sometimes you're going to want to be able to incapacitate somebody and then question them later. So not having that option is a big drawback. You're also going to get the Zealous Heart feature at level 1, which is going to make you immune to fear, magical or otherwise. And being immune to fear is great. There's a lot of really devastating fear effects. This is a situational effect, though. And while it is good, you have to think of these situational effects, especially the defensive ones, as you putting a little patch of chainmail on your body instead of drawing a sword. The sword you can use and swing at your foe in pretty much all situations, whereas that little patch of chainmail, you're going to be waiting for the enemy's sword to hit that exact part on your body. And this is a good analogy. It's a good way of thinking about situational defensive features. And it's an analogy I think I'll use more of because there are a lot of prestige classes like this that will hand out an ability like this. Fortunately, you do also get the death attack, but that is situational as well. And you don't get any advancement to your spellcasting, which is already behind from multi-classing with Rogue. Now, Rogue Cleric is already not the greatest multi-classing idea, but you could make it work with the right prestige class, but so far this does not seem like the right prestige class to do it with. At level 2, you're going to gain poison use, like an assassin. This lets you use poison safely. If poison was a good strategy in D&D, then that would be great, but it's not, so don't use this. At level 3, you're going to get sneak attack of plus 1d6, and this is apparently worth giving up another level of spellcasting for. You are going to get some sneak attack advancement from this prestige class. It's going to be at level 3, level 6, and level 9. So it's slower than what a rogue gets normally. You're already slower than what a rogue's going to get. So this prestige class has a hard time deciding if you want to be a rogue or a cleric, and decides it wants to be a very mediocre version of both. More sneak attack is good. The fact that this is almost the most solid class feature you've gotten so far really says something. It's comparable with the Zealous Heart immunity to fear. At level 4 you get nothing, but you do get to advance your spell casting, so that's nice. At level 5 you're going to get another unique feature. Once per day you can take a single step and pass through obstacles or distance as a spell dimension door. And your caster level for this is equal to half your character level. Being able to cast Dimension Door once a day is nice, but if you wanted to do that, then there were other options to do so. It's nice. It's a spell that clerics don't normally get, but unless, of course, you took the travel domain. But not really that great. If you could do it as a swift action or something like that, then that would have been a little bit more interesting and unique. But as is, it's just kind of another random feature glommed onto the Prestige class that doesn't do a whole lot to really give it a particular direction. And then at level 6, you're going to have advancement to your sneak attack and your spellcasting. At level 7, you're going to get Sacred Flame. This feature lets you, at will, command a single melee weapon in your possession to burn with a black deadly fire. It gains the flaming ability, doing an extra d6 points of fire damage in addition to its normal weapon damage. And then once a day, as a free action, you can instead bestow the Flaming Burst property on a weapon in your possession for 1 minute. So doing this is going to be a standard action to activate, as usual, but it's as a free action once per day for a minute that you can give a weapon the Flaming Burst property. And this feature is a little bit weird with how it's worded. It doesn't say how long it lasts. It doesn't say it only applies while the weapon's in your hand. The art for the Prestige class shows a character wielding one Kukuri, wielded wreathed in black flame. So it's presumed that you can only apply this to one weapon at a time in your possession. And then once a day you can add Flaming Burst to a weapon in your possession for 1 minute. Do these have to be the same weapon? Can you have one Flaming and one Flaming Burst? It's hard to tell, and it's also not made clear by the example character stats either. One would presume that you could use them separately, which would allow you to dual wield Kukuris if you wanted to, like the character in the example art, and then apply Flaming to one and Flaming Burst to the other once a day for a minute. This is a nice feature, but there are cleric spells much earlier on that do this. You could even apply it to multiple weapons. The Black Deadly Fire is cool, but you literally could replace this with a couple of spell slots, which you would have if you continued advancing in Cleric instead of taking levels in this Prestige class. That doesn't advance your spellcasting very much. Finally, at level 9 you get another d6 of sneak attack damage. At level 10 you get Unholy Immolation. When you reach level 10, any creature killed by your death attack or sneak attack is immediately and utterly consumed by holy fire. And this means that the only way to restore life to them is to use True Resurrection or a carefully worded wish spell followed by Resurrection or the Miracle spell. So this basically allows you to inflict permanent death on somebody that you kill. And this is a very cool feature, but practically speaking, it's almost never going to have any impact on the campaign. I could think of only maybe one time, maybe 2 times in all of my time playing D&D that this would have come up, where you would want to kill an enemy and be sure that they couldn't be resurrected. Resurrection is very expensive, and for your average villain, he's going to be better off just finding a new minion instead of trying to resurrect one that's already been killed. Some Dungeon Masters will use an enemy lieutenant being resurrected, or even the main villain of the campaign himself being resurrected as a sort of cool, sort of shock value or cool moment, cool twist. And being able to shut that down would be good. Might not be so much fun, seeing as you get the chance to get experience points from the same guy twice. But it could be useful, and this is definitely where the Prestige class shows its side as being more for NPCs than for player characters. And it's really a disappointing end to the Prestige class either way. Looking at the Black Flame Zealot overall, again, this really looks like a Prestige class geared toward NPCs, but also, even from that point of view, it is a very weak Prestige class. It's spread out way too much. It has a couple of dead levels, and given how restrictive it is and how slow it advances your spellcasting, that's unforgivable. Condensing this to a 5-level Prestige class would make it actually potentially worth taking. If you got Death Attack and Zealous Heart at level 1, and you had the option to change your Death Attack to using Wisdom instead of Intelligence, and then your Poison use and Sneak Attack 1d6 were given at level 2. Level 3 could have Fateful Stride, and Honestly, it should also get something like sneak attack, 2d6 there, but we'll just keep things simple and keep it spread out. And so you get Fateful Stride at level 3, Sacred Flame at level 4, and word it more clearly. And then also get Sneak Attack plus 2d6 at level 4, and then at level 5 get Unholy Immolation, and then get advancement in your Cleric spellcasting at each of the 5 levels. Then this prestige class might actually be worth taking, because then it will be ending you up at level 10 casting as an 8th level Cleric instead of level 15 casting as an 8th level Cleric. And while those might just sound like numbers, it's a very, very drastic difference. One puts you, one spell level behind, the other one is going to put you 3 or 4 spell levels behind. And that's just huge. So the Black Flame Zealot overall, unfortunately, is only going to get 3 stars for concept, but only 1 star for execution. Maybe 2 stars if you are going to use this as an NPC prestige class. But even as such, it's just going to be making for a very weak character. One is trying to be a rogue and a cleric and not being very good in either role. So that'll be about it for this prestige class review. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and so on. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time here on 3.5 Archive.